Bitcoin took a bit of a fall yesterday, going down as deep as $40,683, right into our target range that we were talking about yesterday. In today's video, we will be jumping down into the 1 hour, 1 day, and 1 week's timeframes, sharing my thoughts and opinions on what I think is unfolding here for Bitcoin. Let's roll that intro and get right down into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Bitcoin update. Here we have Bitcoin paired up with USDT. We're on the 1 hour Binance chart. And yeah, as we can see, we were in this downward trend and we broke on down a fair bit. Now, what's really interesting about this break to the downside, not only did we close below the 41,500, which I'll show you in a moment, but this area has also become an area of resistance, as you can kind of see right here. So 41,500 was previously support. We lost it as support, and now it is looking likely to be resistance. The bulls are going to want to take Bitcoin's price and close it back above $41,500 if they want to kind of gain some remote control over BTC here. Now, obviously, we do a lot of Elliott wave stuff on the channel, so I can show you what we are looking like here. This is a 5-wave move, and we haven't yet finished it just yet. Let's go ahead and just consult the Fibonacci retracement tool here, just so you guys can see what I'm seeing inside the charts. And so I'm just going to go ahead and move our Fib chart here down to this exact level. This gives us our Fib chart, basically showing us these accurate extension numbers. And the important one was this one right down here, 1.618. Okay, this 1.618 area is the trigger point for an impulsive trend-based structure according to Elliott wave theory. This one coming in at 40,756. So as you can kind of see right in here, the 1.618 is higher than where we've actually wicked to. We wicked down to $40,683. This basically means that this is a wave 3 structured point, and we started to see a wave 4 retracement. Now, if I remove this fib off of here, you can see that obviously it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The wave 4 typically will retrace 38.2% of this move here, and you can see that is exactly where we got rejected here. Okay, this was 41,524, and you can see that we wicked up to a high of 41,576, and obviously no closed positions above 41,500. I'd be quite happy to say it looks like the wave 4 is complete right here. Now, with the wave 4 complete, it does mean that our wave 5 is going to be targeting down slightly deeper. So we can see it's going to be between our 1.618 and our 1.236 on the fib scales. Essentially, we are talking about 40,141 to 40,475, and this is where the 5th wave will complete. Now, why is all of this really important? This is really important because it is our structured move here, and it is our next big move. It's our next kind of 5th wave movement that we were talking about moving down to. So as you can kind of see, we have a wave 1, a wave 2, a wave 3, all of this being a wave 4, and this is our final 5th wave movement. Now, of course, it could be that this turns into something else. It could modify itself because the wave 4 is unusually long. It took a lot longer to kind of play out than maybe we were initially expecting. Okay, so we want to be aware that it could be that this is actually a double zigzag pattern, in which case we actually will drop down a lot further before we bounce up in any way. But I think this is actually probably a reasonable fit here is the 5-wave pattern, but we'll know more over the next little while. Okay, so as we can kind of see, we're still expecting further to the downside here on BTC. It's not over just yet. Throwing on our smart money concepts, you can see we finally got that break of structure that I was talking about yesterday, where we actually got a closed position in a couple of different interesting areas. So this one right here, this break of structure, is to confirm our change of characterization, as these two things relate to each other. Now, a break of structure essentially is confirming our bearish state of play. This happened when we actually closed below this level right here at $41,718. I actually thought it was going to be 41,500, but you know, it's good to see that actually it is on the slightly higher side there. Now, equilibrium has moved as we have a new low. Equilibrium has dropped down a little bit lower. And it is because of our break of structure here now changed where our premium area is and where our discounted area is. As you can kind of see, this area right down here with all this green, this is the area of discount. And we know that we're going to be moving down into this range to finish off our structure. So this is going to be the obvious area for reversal. And we'll probably be looking at this initial kind of fair value gap and equilibrium as the initial kind of areas of resistance. I'm expecting a bit of a three-wave structural point to the upside, where we see a little bit of resistance around that fair value gap, and then we surge on up. Ultimately, I'm looking for Bitcoin to really be pushing to $45,000, $46,000 once this completes down here, as it will put us into a really strong position for a significant drop again at a slightly later date. So ultimately, I think, yeah, Bitcoin's actually on this 1 hour time frame in a really, really reasonable position. I'm not too concerned with anything. Everything's kind of going along as I have been expecting. And if you have been following the videos over the last few weeks, then you will know that the expectation is to move down at a macro level towards $30,000. And this particular move is just a part of that puzzle. So taking a look, or turning off the smart money concepts and taking a look at the stochastic RSIs, you can see that we started to see a bit of a downturn. We're about to, at the point of recording this video, at 0800 hours here on UTC, we're about to see a cross on the yellow line, the white line on the hourly stochastics. This essentially is going to be putting us in a bearish state of play to kind of move down a bit. So I think ultimately we are looking likely to continue this move downwards. Now, if we go ahead and connect these lines here, we can kind of see it's actually expanding out. It's not a parallel channel or anything like that. We can adjust it ever so slightly if we wanted to see a parallel channel at a later date, which is highly likely, in my opinion, as we probably will actually end up drawing these trend lines slightly differently. But as you can kind of see, we are still looking bearish here for BTC on the 1 hour time frame. We roll this up into our daily time frame. We can see that we did actually drop down lower than our trend line here. And again, we have a new local low here on BTC as it has had this correction to the downside. Now, what's interesting here is that because we haven't closed below this trend line yet, and I do think that is something that we are likely to do. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because I'm looking at this lower trend line here. It's just been an incredibly weak one. In fact, I probably will just remove it for now because it's not really serving much of a purpose for us anymore. We could probably look at this area here coming in as a bit of a trend to the downside. This one actually tied us up quite nicely with the initial low from the 5th of January being tested again on the 12th of January, and then, of course, 18th of January, getting a retest. But I expect we're probably still going to be moving down quite aggressively towards that $40,000 before we get the bounce. So we're getting close to it. We're not there yet, though. I expect a bit more from BTC. Now, obviously here on our daily time frame, we can see that we're below the 50 EMA, the 50 SMA, right? So the 50 EMA, that is the red line. It is essentially coming in at $42,085. The yellow line is resistance right now. That is the 50 SMA coming in at $43,026. So all of that is looking bearish there. Now, the 200 EMA is actually sat a lot further down in price chart at $35,193. So that's going to be the area of focus for us to think about retesting at some point in the coming weeks. There's no divergences on our divergence indicator, and the RSI is below the midline, currently coming in at 41.52. So again, it doesn't look like there's a lot of support to the upside to be found at the moment. Stochastic RSI is still in the oversold area, so we will be looking for that $45,000, $46,000 bounce, but I think we have to appreciate the move to the downside first. Volume wise, we can see volumes are decreasing here. Since we had our highs initially and the initial dumps to the downside, volumes have decreased over this last little kind of sideways trading movement. Whether volumes are going to spike up and dump us hard, I don't think so. I think we'll probably see a volume spike in terms of positivity, but I think it'll be short-lived nonetheless. I think we're just coming to the end of this initial move to the downside. A little bit of relief rally, I think, is more than likely to occur here for BTC. Let's see. Let's take this to the weekly time frame. And we're correcting down nicely on the weekly stochastic RSI. That's looking okay. We'll probably find brief support around $38,000, $39,000 at some point in the future. But I do think we're going to resurge back up towards our resistances. As you can see, we have not closed a position above the 702 fib scale. This coming in at 44,199. I imagine that we're going to wick up there again, but still no closed position above, and ultimately we'll break on down. I think from here, realistically speaking, we only really have the ability to see these corrections to the downside on a macro scale for a bit longer. I don't think we're ready to see any kind of major resurgence back to the upside. I know I was jesting yesterday, specifically with JP Morgan and $50,000 Bitcoin. I don't think that is something that we're going to see anytime soon here for BTC. I think we have to appreciate the moves to the downside first. So I think, yeah, for the most part, Bitcoin's on a macro scale is still looking for moves to the downside. We are, of course, still talking about the previous area of resistance that needs to be tested. That's $30,000. There's lots of confirmations around $30,000, lots of different analytical approaches leading you to that particular number. The way that I look at the charts, I look at it as $30,000 being the key support range for Bitcoin that we need to be kind of looking to hold. That's 30 to 33,000. Failure to do that, then of course we will talk about those lower numbers. But ultimately, I think that's really where we are going to be heading here for BTC over the next kind of month or so. So that's going to roll up into today, or finish off today's video. So why not check out this video right here where I share my thoughts and opinions on what I think is going on in the crypto space.